Hey guys, it's me again, and thank you for tuning back into my channel. I just wanted to come and do a video talking about whether or not if I'm going to do an epidural or go natural when I go into labor with my third child. So I was talking to some of my friends and some of my families, and I was trying to figure out what it is that I'm going to do this time around. And with my daughter, with my first, I had an epidural, and with my son, I did it natural. Now, both times were both extremely painful. So this time around, I don't know what I want to do, because when you go into labor, it's either epidural or you go natural. So I'm just gonna share like a little, like not really a history, but tell you guys what I went through with the epidural and what I went through with going all natural, and kind of give you guys an insight more of those, for those moms that are first time mothers, or those, you know, that probably went through the same thing I went through. Maybe we can relate as far as, oh yeah, I did go through that. But anyways, with my daughter, she was born early, and I was in labor for, I believe, 3 days. I went into labor Thursday night. I had her on a Monday morning, so like 3 days or so. And because why my labor was so long was because they were trying to keep her from coming. But I was in so much pain. I cannot like push that enough. But I was in so much pain, my body physically could not do it anymore, because, you know, my mom was telling me, oh, don't let them put a needle in your spine. But physically, I couldn't do it, because for those that know, when you go into labor, you know, in a hospital setting, they won't let you eat. So I pretty much didn't eat for all that time, and my body was just physically drained, and I didn't have any strength, I didn't have any energy. So I just could not take the pain anymore. And my water wasn't broken at that point. So the hospital staff, my doctor, and everybody was trying to do all that they can to keep her from coming. But I was like, you know, I need an epidural. I can't do this. You guys break my water and let this child come out. She does not want to stay in. So long story short, I got the epidural, and what I remember from getting the epidural was that for me, while they were doing it, I felt it was uncomfortable. I wouldn't say it was more painful than having a contraction itself. It just felt like, for me, whenever I get like, whenever they try to start an IV in this spot here, that's what it reminded me of, because this is just skin and bone. So it was just, it felt like that to me. It hurt, but it wasn't like an unbearable pain, if that makes any sense. I just remember that it was painful. And when it did come in, I remember my face felt kind of tingly and itchy, and I started like shaking. I don't know if that was because of the epidural or just because my body and all sorts of stuff going on at the time. But I do remember shaking at one point after the epidural was placed in. And, you know, I felt her coming out, like I could feel the pressure, and I could feel some kind of like, I would say pain, but I wouldn't call it pain from a natural birth, but I did feel pain while she was coming out, even while I had the epidural. So she came out, she was born, and they took her away because of course she was born early. And, you know, I was in bed for a little bit until the epidural kind of wore out of my system after they turned it off. And when they transferred me to the wheelchair after the doctor did everything that he needed to do down there, I think it was probably like 4 hours later or something like that, that they put me in the wheelchair to take me to the mother and the baby side. And I remember having a headache around that same time of being transferred from the bed to the wheelchair. And I mean, I thought it was, you know, normal part of after delivery, but I did not know that it was because of the epidural why I got that headache. So, it happened where the next day came around and I noticed that every time I would sit up in the bed or, try to stand up to walk to the bathroom, my head would hurt. And the more that I was up was the more painful that it is. And I remember talking to the doctors and the nurses that came by to check upon me after the delivery. And I was telling them about my headache, and they kept on giving me pain, just because of the labor itself, but that pain medication was also helping to subside the pain a little bit, but it didn't completely take it away. And I guess because of how I was describing it and how it felt, they had consulted with the anesthesia people, and they, set up a schedule to kind of do a blood patch. So before I get into what a blood patch is, the reason I was having a headache, leakage of spinal fluid through a punctured hole in the tough membrane that surrounds the spinal cord, and this decreased the pressure exerted by the spinal fluid on the brain and spinal cord, which led to me having a headache. And, I didn't know what that was, so I started Googling it back then. I remember Googling it, and I remember reading all the horrible stories that you find on the internet, and it was freaking me out because I had a vaginal birth, so I didn't stay 3 days in the hospital. I was only there for 2 days. And I remember going home. No, first I went to do a blood patch, and what that is where they took blood from my arm, and it's basically doing the same epidural procedure where they go back into around the area where they inserted the epidural stuff, and they basically use your own blood and push it through the needle back into your spinal area. And what that is supposed to do is create a clot wherever that leakage is to help seal the leakage so it stops and it eases your headache. But they did that, and it did hurt because, I could feel the difference between the labor pain and the epidural / blood patch that they were doing. That was very uncomfortable, but it didn't work for me. I feel it might have worked probably for half an hour. I felt some kind of relief, but it was not an instant, it took care of the problem, and I didn't have it at all. So when I went home and got back in bed, I just remember laying in bed for 2 weeks on my back. It hurt so bad to get up to go to the bathroom. I couldn't elevate my head at all because it was just so painful, and it freaked me out because here I am, a first-time mom, and I'm like, why is this headache, why won't this headache go away? And I did not know why it wouldn't go away, because they did what they said they could do to fix it, which was the blood patch, but the blood patch did not work. And so I'm stuck at home in bed. My husband took time off of work, so I knew he had to go back to work soon, and I wanted to go see my daughter back in the NICU. And I remember talking to the doctor, or I either spoke to a doctor or read something, and they were telling me to drink a whole lot of caffeine. So I remember my husband buying a case of Pepsi, and I was just always drinking Pepsi, and I was praying, drinking Pepsi and praying, drinking Pepsi and praying. At the same time, I was pumping because I wanted to get my daughter the breast milk for the NICU, and it was just craziness at that point. So with my experience in the epidural, getting the spinal headache, and being pregnant with my second, which is my son, I did not want to do an epidural again. So that made me want to go natural. So with my son going natural, it was a beautiful experience. My birth with my daughter was a beautiful experience. I don't regret anything about having her and how I had her. And with my son, I don't regret how it happened. I just remember the natural birth part of birthing, like giving birth to my child, my son, my second born, because of how my experience was with an epidural. I didn't want to do the epidural again, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna tough it out and I am going to try to do this thing naturally. Now, some women, their pain tolerance is completely different, and everybody has different experiences when it comes to labor. So my personal experience was, I felt like I was going to die on that delivery bed. Like literally, my husband was there, my mom was there, and my husband had to leave to take my daughter home. I remember so vividly, and they broke my water at like 7:55, and by 8:05 my contractions started to get regular. Hey Daisy. My contractions started to get regular, and I was timing them, and I was nervous and I was scared because my husband wasn't by me, and I was like, he's gonna miss the birth of his son. And I don't know if it was because I was just so scared and so nervous at the time that it just made my pain even worse than it was. But guys, oh my gosh, it was horrible. And I'm not trying to be extra. I just remember it being so painful. My husband finally came back, and this was like probably 20 minutes after, so this was probably like 8:20ish. And I'm like, please get me an epidural. I forgot about how my epidural went with my first. I didn't care about no epidural headache. I wanted something to take this pain away. It was ridiculous. So they came and they did the blood work to see if I was okay to get an epidural, and they had to send it down and all sorts of stuff that, it's like, I felt personally like they were just stretching the time out because they did not want to give me the epidural. And for some weird reason, there was just one anesthesiologist in the whole hospital. And of course, when I needed the epidural, he was downstairs doing something with another patient. And I was screaming. I remember screaming. I apologized to the nurses, staff, and everybody while I was screaming because I felt like I was gonna die. It was crazy. And my husband, he came up, and I remember him telling me how he didn't even know where in the hospital I was. He just remembered hearing me scream because it was just so bad. So anyways, it got to the point where the anesthesiologist came in, and I sat on the end of the bed, and they had me bending over, and I'm going through these contractions, and I'm like, I cannot do this. They had checked me, and I think I was about like a 9 or an 8 or somewhere around there, a 7, somewhere along that line. And I felt like as soon as I sat up to get my epidural was when my body like took over. Hi, princess. It was like when my body took over, and I just could not tolerate it anymore. I was like, my body is pushing. I need to get this baby out. So they're like, there's no way your body could be pushing because I just checked you and you were like at a 6 or a 7, whichever one I was. And I was like, no. And I just remember looking, and the anesthesiologist just walked out, threw up his hands like, I can't do this, and walked out of my room. And here I am stuck on the bed and could not get any sort of pain relief. And I'm screaming. I'm like, somebody pray for me because I literally felt like I was going to die. And long story short, my doctor came in. This is probably like 8:50 or 8:55ish. My doctor came in, checked me, and my body was already pushing. He was trying to get his stuff all geared up and put his things on, and I was just like, I cannot do this. The baby is coming. I cannot stop pushing. My husband was telling me what the nurse was telling me, so I was telling my husband he needs to be quiet because whatever the nurse was telling me is exactly what he was repeating. And I just wanted it to be done. And so long story short, It's just crazy. The reason I'm laughing because I remember it so vividly and how painful it was, and it was just a crazy experience. But I loved it. Well, I wouldn't say I loved it, but I enjoyed the experience of giving birth. And my son was born maybe 3 pushes after that. So within the hour of breaking my water, my son was born. And I remember after he came out, I didn't feel a thing, which was completely different than having my daughter here. Say hi, princess. Hi. Than having my daughter and having to go through laying in bed until the epidural wore off, and then, you know, going into the wheelchair and having that spinal headache. Because after I had my son, there was I felt nothing. I felt fine. I felt like I could go run a mile around the track or something. And it was just, you know, better for me in some sense. That's why I kind of enjoyed the natural labor and the pain, even though the pain was ridiculous. Ooh, excuse me. The fact that I was able to just get up after having my son and, you know, go, you know, walk around, do what I needed to. Yes, I was kind of achy and sore, but it did not, like, I felt fine. Like, I couldn't believe I just was going through all that pain. So now with my third, I have no idea as to what I want to do as far as my labor and delivery goes. I am just praying and asking God to give me the strength, because I don't want to go through the headache part of the epidural, and I definitely don't think I can manage going through the pain of natural birth. So, you know, I just wanted to come by and share what I experienced versus epidural or natural. And if you guys or any other future moms or any other moms out there that heard my story and can relate, just let me know about your story, about your previous births, and let me know what you plan on doing. You know, a lot of people would tell me I should get a doula or all this stuff, but because I'm high risk in my pregnancy, I'm going to have to give birth in a hospital setting, so I can't go into the doula or a birthing center and do all that relaxation, eat potato chips while I'm pushing out the baby. I'm going to have to be in the hospital while doing that. But please do share your comments. If you enjoyed my little rambling and my little story, please thumbs up this video, and also please do subscribe. And I will see you guys in my next video. I'm sorry if you guys see a lot of distractions. I'm just trying to get my video in. And so I'll see you guys in my 25-week pregnancy update. I thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope it was in some way helpful to those new time moms about trying to figure out what they're going to do as far as their labor and delivery goes. And you know, I hope I didn't scare anybody off with my pain and my pain tolerance. Everybody is different, but you guys can do it. And I just wanted to share my my experience with you guys. And I'll see you guys in my next video. I love you guys, and as always, God bless you. And you want to say bye, princess? Bye. She just wanted to get off camera. All right, bye guys.